Hi everyone, my name is Lauren and I am addicted to buying books. But you know what, life could be worse. As we say here on BookTube, at least it's not drugs. I bought a whole lot of books this month. But that's good because, well, it's good because I'm excited about them and I'm really looking forward to reading them. But also, I haven't bought books in ages. I didn't get any for Christmas. I hardly ever request them from publishers. So, I'm excited. You got to indulge sometimes, haven't you? So I'll start with some of the books that I bought at the beginning of the month. The first of these is Troubling Love by Elena Ferrante. Elena Ferrante is an Italian writer. I have read Days of Abandonment and The Lost Daughter by her. This is the third of her standalone novellas which has been translated into English. She's also the author of the Neapolitan novels, which I have just started. Similar to some of her other work, this is about a woman who is in Naples, and this is her struggling in the wake of her mother's death. I don't know very much about it other than I really enjoy Elena Ferrante's writing, and I just want to read as much as I can that's been translated from her. All of her works have been translated by Anne Goldstein, and I think she does a really good job because I never feel like this has been translated, and I still get the same tone in all of her different books. I've also been feeling like I want to expand my horizons a little bit, or expand my knowledge and start reading a little bit of non-fiction, but I didn't really know where to start because I'm one of those people that wants to know everything about everything, and I can't decide what I want to specialise in. So what I thought, I've seen these everywhere and I never had to get these for university, though I know a lot of other people do, and that is the very short introduction series, which are on an absolute myriad of topics. And I thought maybe I'd get a few. I'd start off with 3 and see how I felt about them. Obviously, they're all written by different people who are all experts in their own fields, so I am presuming that they're not going to be that similar, but it's whether I can personally get on board with the idea of reading a kind of 150-page little book about a different topic, and if that kind of learning appeals to me. So I've got 3 to start off with. The first one is Myth. I then got Modern China, and I also got African History because I felt, well, myth, I'm quite interested in myths anyway, and I have quite a few myths and legends books which I just haven't read, and I get them and I'm like, oh, I'm really interested in that, but I never get round to actually reading them because I like reading fiction so much. So I can't, maybe this is just something again that I'm going to get and never read, but I thought an introduction to myth might be quite interesting. And then the China and African history ones, I just feel like I don't understand, I feel like I don't know anything about the entire continent of Africa's history. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I know this is a very, very short book, but I feel like this could be a good introduction to me to get a bit of an overall generalist knowledge. And with China, I find China so fascinating. I went to China with the school when I was 16, and I loved going. It's just so different. That whole region is just so different to Western culture. And again, I know this is modern China and not Chinese history, but understanding a completely different culture, a different country's history and socio-political situation, I think will be quite interesting. I mean, that's what I'm hoping from these books. I don't know exactly what I'll get out of them, but I thought I'd give it a go, try and better myself a little bit. And then I have been very kindly sent some books by Will from Vintage, whose channel I will link below. The first of these is When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi, who was a neurosurgeon who was diagnosed with inoperable lung cancer. He died earlier this year, and this is his book which he was writing while he knew he was terminally ill. And because he is a brain surgeon himself, I understand that it's ponderings on life as well, and the concept of being ill and dying. I have seen this everywhere. It's been all over bookshops. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it. I don't generally like to read books that I feel like are purposefully going to make me cry, but it sounds really interesting. I know Will read this and was absolutely blown away, so I'll have to see what I think of this one. Will also knows that I'm absolutely ecstatic about the Hogarth Shakespeare project which is happening, so he sent me the next one in the series. I already have The Gap of Time by Jeanette Winterson, and now I have Shylock Is My Name by Howard Jacobson. This obviously is a retelling of The Merchant of Venice, and I've not actually read any Howard Jacobson at all because I don't know why. I think maybe I just assumed it wouldn't be the kind of thing I was interested in, which is a bit, silly on my part. But now that he's retelling Shakespeare, I'm like, oh yeah, cool, Howard, get on my shelf. So I believe this is not strictly a retelling of the plot of The Merchant of Venice. It's more like ruminations on Shylock and his representation as a Jew in The Merchant of Venice. So I think this is going to be more a play on the themes. And he also sneakily sent me an advanced reader's copy of the next one in the series, which is Vinegar Girl by Anne Tyler, which is a retelling of The Taming of the Shrew. I really loved A Spool of Blue Thread last year, and I've not actually read any other Anne Tyler, which is something that's going to be on my list now, is to read some of her, back catalogue. This is one of the books in the series that I was really excited about, so because I like The Taming of the Shrew anyway. And look how beautiful this cover is. I think it's gorgeous. I mean, I don't know what the final hardback cover is going to look like, because like I said, this is an ARC, but this comes out in June this year. And yes, I'm excited to get to that too. I'm going to be so cultured with all my Shakespeare. And then come all the books that I bought a couple of weeks ago when we had a booktuber meetup in London. We did a bookshop crawl, which obviously meant I just had to buy books like wherever we went. But I was so excited. I was having such a nice time. I did a vlog of that day, which I'll link here if you'd like to go and see what we got up to. But starting with the books that I bought first, these were from the London Review bookshop. The first one I got was I Call Myself a Feminist, which is just stories from 25 women under 30 as to why they identify as feminists today. The reason I got this is because this is the first pick for the month of March for Jean's Feminist Orchestra Book Club, and yeah, so I wanted to read it anyway. I think this is going to be a really good introduction to feminism. I imagine, as someone who's read a little bit about the subject, that this might be fairly lightweight for me, which, sounds like I'm some kind of feminist expert, which I'm not. But I do think this is going to be interesting to hear from women of my generation, and it's just very current about the situation which is happening now. So I'm looking forward to reading this, and also starting the read-alongs for the book club, which is going to be fantastic. And then while I was at the till, I also saw The Trouble with Women by Jackie Fleming, and I just picked it up completely on a whim. I saw this, I think, on Anna's channel, A Case for Books, which I will link below. She's just joined BookTube, and she is fantastic. I absolutely love her videos, so you should go check them out. They're so creative and really insightful. But this is so funny. It's little quotes which have been said about women throughout the ages, with funny little illustrations about sort of why women are rubbish. I'll just give you a sneak peek. Look, in the olden days there were no women, which is why you don't come across them in history lessons at school. There were men, and quite a few of them were geniuses. Then there were a few women, but their heads were very small, so they were rubbish at everything apart from needlework and croquet. And you've got a little woman with a tiny head. And I just think this is going to be really funny. There's some like, oh, women live in the domestic sphere, and there's just like a woman in a sphere. And I just think this looks really fun and really silly, and again on the kind of feminist theme. We then went to Foyles on Tonacor Road, and I got a few books from there. So the first one of those was Girls Will Be Girls by Emma O'Toole, which I know Mercedes from Moses Booker's Musings read a while ago and really enjoyed. And this looks at gender and our perceptions of gender, I believe, like masculinity and femininity, and just in general. But she really enjoyed it, and it says dressing up, playing parts, and daring to act differently. And I just think it's going to be interesting. I went through a phase a while ago of kind of trying to read a lot more books about feminism, the subject of feminism, but not just feminism, actually gender in general, which I think is quite interesting. And yeah, so this comes highly recommended. And while we're in there, I also picked up some by David Eagleman, which is 40 Tales from the Afterlife. This is a little book of short stories, and each one is a different idea of what might happen after we die, so all different versions of the afterlife. This comes highly recommended from Jen Campbell, and basically I mentioned I kind of wanted it. I was like, oh yeah, I think I want some, and she like darted through the shop. She was like, right, I'm gonna get it for you, let me go find some. I was like, oh, thank you. But I've been looking forward to reading this anyway, and it's such a cute little book. I then went a little bit kind of left field, I guess, and got a book of essays by Siri Husfett, which is Living, Thinking, Looking. And I love Siri Husfett's fiction. I've never read any of her essays. She does have other essay collections out there, but this one is kind of the most comprehensive. This is the largest collection, I think, that she's published. And it's just about, I'm not really sure what it's going to be about, but it says in the back, how do we see, remember and feel? How do we interact? What does it mean to sleep, dream and speak? What is the self? And as part of her fiction, she always includes kind of philosophy and thoughts on art and the self. And I find that really interesting when I'm reading her books. So I thought it'd be interesting to read an actual essay by her and not get her views kind of secondhand through a character, because I want to kind of understand what she thinks and learn a little bit more about her, because she has a PhD and she's very, very intelligent woman, and I just think it's going to be really interesting. But again, I think it's sort of going along the themes of reading a little bit of non-fiction and expanding my brain a little bit. I think because I've been out of university for so long, I'm now like, oh, I want to learn just off my own bat rather than being forced to learn because I'm at school. And then the last thing I got in foils, which was a complete, I just took it off the shelf and I just couldn't walk past it without buying it. And that was Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which everyone who has read has absolutely adored. This takes the form of a letter to his adolescent son, and I believe it's his thoughts about being a black man and what it means to grow up as a black man, and the kind of history of race and culture and his place in the world and things like that. Obviously, I don't know, haven't read it yet, but it comes so highly recommended, and I've just, I just thought I'm here, I'll pick it up. When I've got it at home, I'll read it, and it sounds like it's going to be a really interesting and insightful read. Then the last place we went on our bookshop crawl was Forbidden Planet, and I picked up some graphic novels. I didn't actually like Forbidden Planet that much. I think it's because it was really crowded, and I don't know that much about comics that I know which one I'm going to go and get, and everything is arranged by like the title of the comic, so I find it really difficult to browse. And what I really wanted was to browse through the independent section and try and find some new interesting art, and I really just couldn't deal with it. There were too many people and it was too difficult to browse, so I just got what I knew I wanted to get. But I probably will be picking up some more graphic novels in the near future, just because I didn't feel like satisfied properly from my visit. And they were Rat Queens Volume 2, because I read Rat Queens Volume 1, Whack Queens, and yeah, I liked it. I thought it was quite fun. So I just thought I'd get the second one. I've not heard as good things about this, to be honest, and I was talking to Elizabeth from Books and Pieces after I bought it, and I'm a bit like, oh, now that I've got it, I'm a bit like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to enjoy it. So let's see. And the next thing I got, because I want to be part of the zeitgeist, guys, and that's Saga Volume 1. And this sounds like a kind of Romeo and Juliet sort of thing, where these two people are kind of from warring races and then they have a baby and it's all like, oh no, you can't be in love. Or something along those lines. But again, it comes so highly recommended, and I don't know anyone who's kind of read it and not enjoyed it actually. So I thought I'd at least give it a go and see what I think about it. So those are all the things I bought. I'm really pleased with all of them. I'm really excited to read them. Well, naturally I would be, because I've spent my money on them. So I do kind of feel like now I need to have like a reading retreat. Like I need to just go somewhere, go to the country for a week and just not talk to anyone and just read. I would love to hear from you if you have read any of these already, and let me know which ones you think I should read first, which ones you're most excited to hear my thoughts on. I would love to hear which ones are your favourites, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Not only did I find the actual plots of these stories absolutely beautiful and heartbreaking, but I also found her writing to be really, really delightful, and some of the imagery that she has in here is just so gorgeous and surprising.